Hello folks, welcome to the canal channel Jose. Today we're gonna give you an idea how we did to replace the one of the tail lights on our Manx from conventional to LED. So we wanted to keep oh, the round and flush look to it, almost original. So this LED is gonna be more efficient and more brighter. So it's for a safety matter. So now we're gonna be replacing the passenger side one, and we're gonna show you the steps or the procedures that we had to go through to replace the conventional to LED. And with that said, let's jump right into it. To get from the regular light to the LED light, we had to buy the chrome ring or base, chrome base that we got, stainless steel. And then we got the light, is slim, three connectors to it, or three prongs. There's ground, driving, and stop, or turn signal as well. And we have the connector that goes right in there with it. So, but before we start taking this light out, we have to mount this LED into the stainless steel base and then set it, center it, and connect that into that light. We have to cut here so we can connect it into the wiring, because this one, when it comes out, is gonna be chopped because it's in one piece. But first, let's mount this into the ring. For us to fit this light into this stainless steel base, what we had to do is it goes in and it doesn't want to go in anymore. So we got a lot of plastic showing, but then on the base, you see that there's a gap here. So what we have to do is we have to shave off some of that gray plastic off to reduce diameter. So then we can slide it in and pop it in. So it'll be flush, just like the original one or that light. So that way we don't want any high points. We want it flush with all the round. So we start shaving this with a file all the way around, and then we fit it here all the way around, just on the bottom piece. That was the plastic keeping us from sliding it all the way into the stainless steel base. So now that we have gone around with this file and shave off some of the plastic, now we can try and slide it into the stainless steel ring. So now, before we start installing this and gluing anything or doing any job to it, we want to put the connector to it and then prepare it so we can connect it to a battery and see if this works, because it could be damaged from factory and we go through the whole trouble installing it and then ended up that it didn't work. So we want to try before we do anything that it works, so we move on. So now we have the light connected to its connector. We clean the ends so we can plug it into voltage and see if this light turns on before we move on. Now that we know that this light works like it should, then we move on to start doing what we needed to do. Because if this light we start moving on and it was defective out of the box, we'll find out until the end of the job and it's gonna be too late. We're gonna be mad about it. So we can do something about it right now before we start moving on. So now that we know it works, let's continue. So now that we have the light in here, that we're gonna be using a 2-part epoxy, and this one we have a half and half, and then we're gonna mix it, and then once we have the mixed product, we're gonna start shoving it in between the stainless steel and the plastic of the light and making it to so it glues itself. So for the price that we pay for these two, if the light goes out, we'll just buy both units again, because they're not that expensive. So we put the epoxy and glue it, and we'll continue once it's dry. So now we have added the glue, so we're just gonna wait until this dries so we can continue with the installation. While our epoxy dries into the LED light, and we can continue taking the light that we have on our Manx off so we can start cleaning up this area for that new installation. So we have to cut out this light because there was no connectors. So now we're gonna be putting connectors for these lights to go into the newer lights. Wherever we need to replace it, we just use the same connectors to put it, so that way we can remove it if in any time we need to. So now we have the connectors ready to go. We have the ground for LED, stop and turn signal connector, and this is the driving light. So this end connects to the LED. These connect to these other ones that we already have done. Stop and brake, brake and turn signal. And this is the driving light. This is the ground that is going to come over and bolt into the back of the light. And that's where this one is going to grab it from this wire. Once the light is screwed on. So we connect all this, and then we grab our light and we start presenting it, connect the ground and put it in. So we start connecting these ones for now. So now we're gonna wrap this with black tape, this one with a red electrical tape. And before we do that, we're gonna connect this to our light and make sure that it works, and then we can continue with the full installation. So now the light in these two units are dry, the epoxy is dried out, and now we can plug the light to the plug and try to turn on the light and see if it works before we start moving on to install it, put tape and all that. So make sure it turns on. So we just connected the ground this way into the light so we can see if the other two are getting power, and then if everything's going to be working properly so we can move on to install it. We have everything preset. We just feed the light, and then we line up the hose, and then we screw it in. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how we did this replacement of conventional lights to LED lights. And one thing that some people might be saying is that I could have just replaced the internal light bulb. And that's true. I could have just done that easier, faster. But on this case, we wanted more light so it's safer for the other drivers as well. So they know our intentions as we're trying to switch lanes or we're stopping, because the color of the car and these were dimmer, so that now we have a brighter light and they're going to be safer for everybody. So we wanted to keep the original look, which we have, but we didn't want it to be dim like this. So like we said, we could have just changed the light bulb, but we went with the full housing, and we didn't have to modify too much because we almost put the same shape into it, and it's just flush, and it's gonna look almost to what we had. So with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching the video, have to subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal, El Chano Jose.